Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all of you. This is your host Vaibhav. In today's session of JForex Indicators Explained, we are going to continue using the Hilbert Transform Series indicator. Today we are going to look at the concept and the uses of the indicator named as Hilbert Transform Dominant Cycle Period. This is one of the many indicators developed under the Hilbert transform formation, which we are going to see how we can utilize this particular indicator for optimizing our trade entry and exit points, because whenever we get into the market, of course the motive is to profit from the price dynamics for the underlying instrument, the instrument of our choice, and we have to look at the trend as well as the strength of the trend, whether it is getting stronger or weaker, what is the dominant phase, and if the signs are emerging of a possible change in the current cycle. So all these factors have always to be considered, and in that regard, we can rely on this indicator to give us timely information of the current cyclical trend and whether it is weakening or getting stronger. This is a directionally neutral indicator. It simply looks at the current cycle phase. If the trend is, for example, say bearish, if the existing trend is bearish, then in a ongoing price dynamic scenario, the indicator will be assessing whether the current bearish trend is getting stronger or getting weaker. So using that information, we can plan our trading strategies, and if there is a change, we can figure out that as well in a timely manner and change our inclination and change our trades in a shifting environment in a price data where that trend change is warranted. So let us now head to the JForex 4, the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. Here is the chart of the Euro USD with each candle period defined at hourly, and on these chart you will see there is a HTDC period indicator, that is Hilbert transform dominant cycle period indicator in place. This with the default setup there is not much we can do for changing its configuration. Let me look at its editing options provided on this platform. But since we can't really tinker with the calculation, there is not going to be much of an option for us to customize this indicator like the way we do for other many such indicators. This is a indicator which uses Hilbert transform formation. This is mainly used to figure out the signal frequencies and make sense of that data. And we are using the same principles in the applied to the price series to look at the current cycle and whether it is getting stronger or weaker. So here, as expected, for the editing, only thing we can edit is the applied price, and apart from that, there is nothing we can change. So let us now get to the chart again, and I will try to explain to you the underlying logic and how this is plotted. The output value is going to range in between 10 to 40, and this indicator basically tells us how likely the current trend is going to sustain if the HTDC period graph is rising. Say for example here, the trend was bearish with these continuous lower lows and lower highs being formed, and whenever we saw the price dipping, the Hilbert transform dominant cycle period output value was accelerating, was rising, but as things tended to go sideways, and if there was some sort of price move in the opposite direction in that scenario, we saw these output value for the HTDC period starting to drop again. So with that kind of information, we can always look at these price formation and make the assessment that the current trend is getting weaker or it is getting stronger. So here, if we simply consider the dominant cycle, the existing dominant cycle was bearish, and then as we saw this sharp spike on the lower side, the Hilbert transform dominant cycle trade indicators spiked up, but as the price action went sideways, we saw this value dipping. So that was essentially telling us that the existing trend is getting weaker and weaker. There is not much of a movement. But as the price started to decline further, we saw this spike happening in the out value of the Hilbert transform dominant cycle grid. So with this information in place, we could have made the choice to go for a short sale trade again as the output was picking up, and once this move happened, we saw the Hilbert transform DC period output again starting to go sideways. There was not much of a movement on either side, and that resulted in this cycle phase indicator output value dipping. And again, as the momentum picked up, we saw this spike, and things started to go sideways. And when there was this trend change and the price formation turned or started to turn bullish from bearish, we saw this steep decline. And only once this new phase, new trend got established, we saw the gradual pickup. Now, this time around on the bullish side, so here we could have made that assessment, and again with this price decline taking effect, we saw this spike after things had gone sideways, and here the momentum waned, the price action went sideways, and when this further decline started to take place, we saw this spike only to be reversed, and this dip again is happening as the price seems to have turned, and we saw this spike on the higher side. So that pushed the HT dominant cycle period, which was indicative of the bearishness, to decline, simply telling us that the existing trend, existing prior bearish trend is now coming to is showing the signs of fatigue, is likely to end, and we will do well. Keep that in mind and plan our trades accordingly. And only if the current dominant cycles starts to show the signs of picking up again, we should get involved for the existing trend. So you can do is you can utilize this indicator like the ADR, the way we use ADR. So when the output of the Hilbert transform dominant cycle grid is about, say, for example, 20 or 25. You can put in your own criteria after making observations. And if the output value is above a certain threshold and if it is rising, that means the current trend is strong and is even getting stronger. So I think that is going to be the time when you should try to look for entry points, and if the current trend is strong, there are three possibilities: either the trend can change, either the trend can continue and get stronger, or it can simply go sideways. So if you are using this formation, you can make the system which is going to work in 66% of the possibilities, because you can devise it in such a way that even if the things simply go sideways, or if the current trend continues, you can profit in these two scenarios, while you will end up in losing money only when the trend changes and things go against your assessment. So you can use it just the way you use ADR if you are aware of that indicator, or you can also start using this as a new indicator. And as I told you, as I have tried to explain to you, the interpretation is kind of easy to understand, equally easy to use, and also if you simply observe these price formation, you will see that when the output is above certain threshold and it is rising, that indicates that the current phase is strong, and if and when it starts to decline again, that is the time for profit booking, or to simply sit on the sidelines if you don't really have any trades in the market. And let us look at the editing panel. As I told you earlier, there is not much we can do in entering this indicator. All we can do is apply different types of prices. So one by one you can try out these different applied prices, and as you see, depending on the kind of applied price we are using, there is going to be a substantial difference in the way the plotting happens for the dominant cycle phase indicator. Now I'm going to revert back to close price output. You can go for different color combination. So if you are not really a fan of a dark blue color, and of course go for a different color combination of your choice. Styling and the width can also be varied. Transparency factor can also be changed. Levels, if you feel like, you can add certain levels, say for example 20 or 25, so that it makes easier for you to keep certain levels in mind. So if you feel like, you can add it or you can leave it as it is. So here the option has been given to you on the platform. There is nothing on the default, but here you can make your own value as a threshold. Say for example 20, then it will be plotted at the 20, and you can easily interpret what is happening if the current trend is getting stronger or weaker. That makes it easier for you to understand at the first glance. Advanced editing option, we calculate on new candle only. If you opt in, then the output will get locked in for the current grid at the levels of the initiation of the new candle. Highlight the time period zone, whatever is your current dominant cycle phase, it will be highlighted. You can customize it, but there is not much we can do in terms of the customization as we had seen earlier, but here some additional options are given, and you can have the three parameters defined differently from the chart. So you get to choose whether you want to use the instrument from the chart or different. Same thing applies for the grid and the spread side. You can use it as is from the chart, or you can specify, and accordingly that parameter will be fixed. If you want this indicator to be available on all the candidates, then you can opt in for this option. Else you can specify on which particular candidate you want this indicator to be available, and on given that particular time frame you will have this indicator in place. Basically you can vary the base period, but it is not really going to make much of a difference for this indicator. So I am now reverting back to none. So with this, I think my job is done for today's session. If any of you have any query or any idea to share, do write to me in the feedback, and I'll be more than happy to take the discussion forward. See you next time around with a equally interesting indicator to work with. Thank you all for joining in. Goodbye.